session. And at this time, I'm chairing the meeting because it's the reorganization meeting of the School District of Amery. So at this time, election of officers will take place and nominations by the board will be open for school board president. Nominations do not require a second, are not amendable, are not debatable, and simply require a majority vote by the board.
I'd like to nominate Chelsea Whitley for the position of board president.
Chelsea has been nominated. Are there any further nominations?
I'd like to nominate Keith Anderson.
Keith Anderson has been nominated. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations? Seeing none, we will vote. First, all those in favor of closing nominations signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, nominations are closed. We will now have election of the president with 2 nominations. And we can do this by closed ballot, I believe. So, paper.
It's official. Mr. Gupta, is the teller been appointed? Is that you?
I'll appoint Cheryl as the teller.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go right away.
Okay, the results are Chelsea Whitley will be board president. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Chelsea for the rest of the elections, including vice president, treasurer, and clerk.
Okay, we'll start with nominations for vice president. Are there any nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Keith Anderson for the position of board vice president.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Move
Like
to
3
cast a
times
unanimous
already.
ballot. I move to close nominations for vice president and cast a unanimous ballot for Keith Anderson for vice president.
Okay, anyone opposed?
That does require a second. I second it.
All right. Keith Anderson is nominated as vice president. We'll now move to nominations for clerk.
You have to take a vote, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of Keith Anderson being vice president?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, sounds unanimous. Next, we will move to nominations for clerk. Are there any nominations for clerk?
I'll nominate Dale Jensen, or Jensen.
Okay.
I was close, wasn't I? Yeah.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations for clerk?
I'll move to cast unanimous ballot for Dale Johnson for clerk and to close nominations.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of Dale Johnson being clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Now, nominations for the position of treasurer. Are there any nominations for position of treasurer?
I nominate Charlene.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Any other nominations for treasurer?
I move to close nominations and cast unanimous ballot for Charlene as treasurer.
Okay.
Seconded.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Charlene is appointed treasurer. And I guess we don't have to make nominations for Aaron to be director since that's the
Open position.
that's the open position. Okay. All right, now moving on to meeting dates for the 2018-19 school year. These are typically the third Monday of every month, other than a few exceptions.
Yeah, the only exceptions would be June, which is near the end of the fiscal year, and then October, following the annual meeting, then the levy is set prior to early November. So October and June are the fourth Monday.
Can I get a motion to accept these meeting dates?
I make a motion to accept the meeting dates for the next school year.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we are on to the designation of district depositories.
Yeah, there are actually a couple less depositories than we've had in the past because there were vacant accounts that were sitting out there, but these are the current active official depositories and those that will be needed for 18-19.
What were the vacant accounts?
I guess I'd have to go back to last year's list, but there were just accounts that were no longer being used and actually haven't been for quite a few years. I can get a list of those to you.
And what were they involved?
They were just inactive accounts that had been used in the past. So they may have been opened by an activity account or by some other account in the past, just not active. We've tried to get all the accounts at the local financial institutions, Bremer,
I think we
Wisconsin.
had one at the bank that closed. Was
RCU?
Yeah, Royal
RCU,
was one,
right,
for
right.
instance.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
oh, yeah. So it was Royal, and the other was the local government pool. It was the one that could be used for taking loans from the state local government pool, and that's no longer in existence by state law. So there's no reason to keep that. And then the other is Royal, and even though Royal still exists, there's no longer a local branch, so no reason to keep that.
Okay, so these are the same as last year minus those two.
I'd make a motion to approve the official depositories as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Those are the depository accounts for the district. So the next matter on the agenda is the appointment of the WASB correspondent and convention delegate. This is just an appointment, so it doesn't need a motion. I've done it the past few years, and if anybody wants to experience that, who plans to go to the meeting next January, I'd be happy to turn that duty over. Otherwise, I would be happy to do it as well. So is anyone
So this is at the
interested?
January meeting, and there's a certain time that a delegate has to attend.
Correct. To just vote on policies that are put together by a committee that are brought to the legislature for.
I mean, I would be willing, but if you would like to do it, I'm fine with that all as well, but I'm in the learning stage.
All right.
They deal with resolutions, so the WASB comes out with resolutions. They say what they're in favor of or what they're opposed to, and it's a very long and, I'll have to say, dry meeting that they go through these wordy resolutions.
Good experience.
You notice he told you that after you volunteered.
All right, well, we'll appoint Aaron, the WASB correspondent and convention delegate. And if for some reason you can't make it, I'd be happy to take over. You would just have to give me your packet. I know that I think Keith was appointed in the past. And
Nope.
Okay, well, they sent the information to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you weren't officially appointed, but
Yep.
the delegation packet went to you that you had to give to me. So it's as long as somebody
Yeah.
from Amery appears. Okay. The next item on the agenda is authorization for use of independent hearing officer for expulsion hearings that are held next year.
That's simply authorization to use an independent hearing officer. We don't assign one until we have the need for it.
Correct.
But you give authorization.
Is there any, do you guys want to have any discussion on that? I think this is on the agenda every May, and it's pretty standard to have an independent hearing officer. And then, of course, we're present as well at any expulsion hearings, as long as there's a majority of us.
Who would be an independent hearing officer?
Often it's an attorney from a different firm, or could be a retired administrator. It's whoever is appointed by the board.
Somebody just to facilitate the hearing,
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know, where the board makes the ultimate decision, but somebody has to
Advise and give
Advise
the legal
and
ramifications and
organize and
Yeah.
go through the protocol and call the witnesses and the principals. So it's a good idea.
Haven't we always used the same firm?
Yeah.
Town
Jim
court
Ward,
is-
maybe?
Oh, yeah, Jim Ward. Yeah, I was
I
thinking.
think. Not that we
The
use them
auditor.
that often, but
Yeah.
the several times we have. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, fortunately, we don't have to.
So I'll
Hopefully,
make a
yeah.
motion that we authorize the use of an independent hearing officer for expulsion hearings for next year.
Correct. Did you just make that
Yes, I
motion?
made the motion.
All right.
Second.
All right. Is there any more discussion? Is there any opposition to those motions? Okay. Motion carried.
You got to ask for a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Board-appointed committees.
Now, according to board policy, the district administrator and board president are ex officio members of all advisory committees, and these are traditional committees that the board has had, and I'll just go through them. Building and Grounds Committee is the people up there plus a board member. Community Ed Advisory Committee, and that's more of a, I talked to Tracy about it, and she wants to reorganize that committee and include community ed instructors and selected community members at large and a board member. And Human Growth and Development Committee is actually state mandated by state statutes. There's an Outdoor Education Committee and the Curriculum Oversight Committee, and then the Information Technology Planning Committee. So
And they would
we're looking for one board member to serve
Or
on
more.
each.
Yeah, we're looking for one board member to serve on each committee.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's more than one board member, that's fine as well. So if everybody wants to be on the buildings and grounds, then that's fine as well, right? There's not,
Well, if you have two,
Yeah, if you have two.
then you're going to have to post a meeting.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there-
Because
constitute
you're, as
majority.
president, you're on it already.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll see
Yeah.
that.
So I'll take the buildings and grounds I've been on there before.
Okay.
I've been on the technology committee, but it's a lot of times during the day, and I haven't been able to make many of those meetings.
It's usually at 3:30, the last committee.
Yeah.
And actually, a number of committees, board members haven't always been able to make, and we just inform you of all the activity on the advisory committees.
Could you explain a little what human growth and development?
Yeah, that has to do with the human growth and development, sex education, and that type of potentially controversial types of curriculum. Mr. Benson has maybe more information.
I know that committee has typically had members from the ministerial pastors, as well as health professionals, doctors. We're required to have a parent on it and some students on it, and so it's a committee that has to meet, I think, every other year, and typically what they're doing is just guiding where the curriculum will go, not necessarily picking out the curriculum, but giving guidance to the types of direction that we will go when we look at curriculum and deliver instruction, and the ages and the appropriate levels of things. So that's kind of a little bit more about that committee.
You're just looking for what we'd like to serve on. I would be interested in serving on that Human Growth and Development Committee and also the Curriculum Oversight Committee.
Okay, so we have at least one board member on all of them, but the Community Education Advisory Committee.
I'll do that one.
Okay.
No, these are actually appointed by the board president. So
okay.
If you agree with.
Well, Erin, did you want to be appointed to any of those?
Yeah, I'll serve anywhere.
Which ones interest you?
They're all interesting, I guess. Yeah, I'll serve anywhere that there's a need, anywhere that there's an opening. Okay. Is there somebody for community education right now?
Dale.
On the what?
Community education.
I could do that one. I mean, not that it's.
Lynn and Chelsea were, but I'm not sure they met very frequently at all.
Okay. I mean, I would be interested in doing that.
Okay.
Oh, but I can do something else as well if Dale's already on that.
Okay, so I will appoint Keith Anderson to the Buildings and Ground Committee. Dale Johnson and Erin Hosking to the Community Education Advisory Committee.
I think.
I can only have one because I'm on that.
You're already on them all.
Do we have anybody for the information technology? Or Keith, are you on that?
I can do that one. I've done it before, so
Otherwise, I can
Well,
just
that's
do
one
it.
at 3:30, so maybe
if
with
you want
Erin.
to do it.
Sure.
Okay.
Probably more.
All right, so I will just, Dale Johnson will be appointed to the Community Education Advisory Committee. Shar Glenna will be appointed to the Human Growth and Development Committee and the Outdoor Education Committee.
No, the Curriculum Oversight.
Okay, the Outdoor Education Committee. Who is interested in that? Is that
I can do that.
taken? Okay, Erin Hosking will be appointed to the Outdoor Education Committee. Shar Glenna will be appointed to the Curriculum Oversight Committee. And do you want to do?
Erin, I'm on it.
And Erin Hosking will be appointed to the Information Technology Planning Committee. And that's it for the appointments.
So we're
Next
going
week,
with
next.
Dale?
I am. Community
Oh, yeah.
education.
Okay.
All right, so now we are on to the Spotlight on Education.
Okay, I just have to mention that the first thing under Spotlight of Education is the school perception survey presentation, and I'm going to be calling, first of all, we have 5 teacher presentations. We've got a presentation by School Perceptions and one by Heartland tonight, so I will get Sue Peterson online.
Please hold while I try to connect you.
Hey, Sue. This is Jim. We're at an open board meeting, so I'll put you on speaker.
Okay.
All right, Sue. Can you hear us okay?
I can, and you're going to join my screen.
Show. Connect to the
I read it. I said there's
Okay, so we're in the process. What?
Popping up?
Yep,
Just about
yep,
ready to
it's-
join? Okay, great,
It's coming up as we speak.
great. All right, there you are. Can everybody see?
Yes, looks good.
Excellent. Can everybody hear, more importantly?
Yes.
Yes.
You're good? All right. Good evening. Thanks for letting me remote in tonight. I'm doing 3 different school board meetings. So this is my best way to be in 3 places at once. They said it's not possible, but we found a way. All right. So we did your survey this winter of your staff. If you remember our work together, we helped you with some referendum work and previously did that staff survey. And we've literally done hundreds of these all over the state and even the country. And so why should you be concerned about staff engagement? We know that if your staff are engaged, your students are engaged. They perform better in the classroom, those teachers, and so therefore your students have a higher level of engagement, and then we know that if kids are engaged, their outcomes also improve. So we did your survey in March of this year. Just like last time, all of your district employees received a unique email access code so they could take the survey once and only once. That ensures data integrity. We had 196 of your employees complete the survey, or a participation rate of 75%. We asked your employees at what location do you spend most of your time. As you can see here, 27% said they're at Leon Elementary, 23% at your high school, 21% at the middle school, 19% at your intermediate school, 8% said they work in transportation, 2% the clubhouse, and no one who works at the district office completed the survey. Jim, that means you might not have completed it. All right. What best describes your position? Again, we do this so if we want to dig a little deeper and slice and dice, we want to be able to look at things by position. And specifically for you, we wanted to be able to provide some information regarding professional development needs, experiences, and whatnot. So we wanted to make sure that we really knew where folks fit when they were responding to the survey. Not surprisingly, nearly half, or 44% of your survey respondents are classroom teachers. 26% said that they fell into a support staff category, so your secretaries or your admin assistants, folks that work in food service, transportation, custodial services, your clubhouse staff, and then 15% were ed specialists. So I call those your certified staff that don't work in a classroom. And then 8% are instructional aides, your paraprofessionals,
4% selected other, 3% administration. We wanted to know how many years folks had worked in the district. Again, this kind of gives us a sense of where people are at in their career and maybe their experiences within your district. So you've got a lot of nice veteran teachers and staff. 52% of the respondents have been with you more than 10 years. 19% fit into a category I call newbies. So they've been with you 1 to 2 years, 13% 3 to 5 years, and you can see there 9% were in that 6 to 10 year, and 7% chose not to answer that question. Now this will go through every question in the survey. The first column there is going to be the percentage of employees across all work groups that either strongly agreed or agreed with the statement. The next column we see here is a simple average. If everyone had said strongly agree, you'd see a 5. If they said strongly disagree, you'd see a 1. The number in parentheses is the number of employees that answered that particular question. So you'll see that that number jumps around a little bit. Then we've got a comparison number. We've taken your data, we've compared you to 10 school districts like yours, and we've looked at what the average of those 10 school districts was, and then we say what's the difference. So we're looking for if there's areas where folks in Amery are struggling significantly more than other districts, or perhaps you're doing significantly better in a particular area. So you can see here that some numbers will be to the positive, some to the negative. We get excited, or we say statistically significant at 0.2. So anytime we see a 0.2 or greater to the negative or a 0.2 or greater to the positive, that's an opportunity that we want to pause and say, maybe an area we want to dig deeper at. So in this case, you can see that 78% of your employees across all work groups feel that the district is committed to making needed improvements as they're identified. You're really just hanging out like everybody else in all of your comparison groups, where 63% of your employees said that the district strives to achieve consensus on areas that need improvement. 60% said the district has a culture of open dialogue, and 43% of your employees across all work groups believe that there's a process for evaluating the effectiveness of new initiatives. So just at the bubble where you might be struggling a bit more than other districts. And many times I'll say to districts, when I see this as a negative, it may very well be that you have a process for evaluating initiatives, but it's also possible that your employees don't know what it is or understand it. So sometimes the negative numbers are not about performance, but about communication. Some strong responses and positive responses regarding engagement. 98% of your employees feel their work contributes to the success of the district. 93% find their work personally satisfying. 92% report that they're proud of the district. And then we jump down here where you can see that 66% of your employees say that it would take a lot to get them to leave the district. Again, not concerning. You're kind of hanging out where everybody else is in education right now. And 60% say that the amount of work I'm asked to do is reasonable. So you're really just at the bubble, at that negative 0.2, where your employees might be feeling a bit more stressed in their workload, so something you'll want to keep an eye on. Regarding communication, 72% of your employees, again, across all work groups, believe that school and department information is communicated effectively to them. 81% report they've got a good understanding of the district's goals. 73% say they're kept informed about matters important to their work. 59% say that they feel comfortable sharing their ideas and opinions, and that school board policies and procedures affecting them are available and clearly communicated. And 57% say that the district clearly communicates about important issues. So here's the first time we're going to see some numbers that jump. So when we compare you to similar districts, looks like there might be some communication areas that your employees are struggling with a bit more than similar groups. All right, this you're going to need your bifocals for, so sorry about that, but you'll get an individual copy that you'll be able to look at. But in general, what we wanted to do was say, how would you like to receive information from each of the following groups? So basically, it's an opportunity for each department head or your building leader to say, here's how employees within that I interact with want to hear from me. So in essence, you'll see a strong email that people just prefer getting emails versus don't have time for some face-to-face communication, easier to have a paper trail. That looks pretty positive across all work groups. But again, good information for folks to reflect on from each department level. Regarding building culture, 67% of your employees feel that they have adequate opportunities to participate in decisions that affect them. 86% say their coworkers are willing to help them when they've got a heavy workload. 84% say that their building works hard to find ways to improve. 78% say that their building, their school, is effective at assimilating new employees, so helping those newbies learn the ropes. 73% feel they can bring about change in their building, and 60% say that their building operates as a team. You see the NAs here because we just modified those questions slightly, so therefore we don't have comparables. We asked the question of the academic expectations of your students. What do you think? 77% of your employees said they're just right. 11% feel that they're too high, and almost as many at 12% said too low. Regarding work environment, 92% say that your buildings and grounds are well maintained. Hats off to your maintenance staff, and look at here that difference. Your employees are very positive about your facilities. 96% feel safe. Again, you're doing positive there. 86% report that they have the materials and the supplies to do their job effectively. 96% say they equally feel safe regarding their interactions with adults at work. 83% say they feel supported by leadership when they make a decision. And 55% say that they feel they have enough time to do their job effectively. So again, we're starting to see a little bit heavy workload, not enough time. So again, an area to focus on. 81% are reporting they've got the training they need to do their job. 84% say they've got the flexibility to do their job in the way they feel is most effective. 80% say they feel valued by your community. And then regarding technology, 82% are satisfied with the technology available to them, and 79% satisfied with the technology support. So again, for the most part, kind of hanging right out with anybody else. That technology support, you're just over the bubble, maybe struggling just slightly more than similar type school districts. Some areas where you're over the bubble to the positive. When we look at collaboration, so that PLC work, 78% of your employees strongly agree that decision-making takes place through committees and communication that works across grade and subject level areas. 78% also are saying that the collaborative process exists for developing shared goals. Again, both very positive. 45% say that there's opportunities for common planning between your buildings. 73% say that opportunities are provided for staff to initiate change, and 78% say that staff plan and work together to search for solutions for optimal learning environment. Very positive on the collaboration piece. Here, individuals and teams have the opportunity to apply learning and share the results of their practices. 77% strongly agree with that statement. And mentoring, 63% say that time is provided to facilitate collaborative work, and 59% say that communication systems that promote a flow of information among staff exist. So again, really hanging out with everybody else, nothing statistically significant there. Regarding technology, 88% of your employees strongly agree that technology support is available in a timely manner when they've got issues with their hardware and software. 86% say that the technology meets their needs. 71% say that they're able to keep current with emerging technologies. And just under 60% say that they were able to provide input regarding the technology that's purchased for their use. and 57% saying receive adequate professional development on the technology they use, and adequate time to integrate the necessary technology into their work. So again, knowing that as they get new technology and integrating that into lesson plans and making sure they're comfortable with it does take time. And so an area that you want to take some time and look at and potentially use some professional development time for. Regarding development and recognition, 80% of your employees strongly agree that they're receiving meaningful and timely feedback that helps them improve their performance. 67% are reporting that your professional learning days are organized and well planned. 70% say they receive credit and recognition when they do a good job, and 70% say that they have adequate opportunities for training and professional development. And that may be in the district or going outside of the district. So then we asked some questions regarding professional development. We said, other than a pay raise, please check all of the ways you'd like the district to recognize employees for their efforts. So 72% said, I'd like an additional day off when I spend personal time participating in PD. 58% said they'd like some warrior gear. 48% chose personalized notes, so a hand note perhaps from a supervisor. 30% said they'd like to be recognized, 20% public recognition, and 15% selected other. So this was just how would you recognize employees. Regarding compensation and benefits, 60% said that the pay practices administered consistently for all employees. 67% believe that their benefits are competitive with similar jobs they might find elsewhere. 66% are satisfied with their benefits, 50% with their pay, and 41% of your employees feel that their pay is fair in relationship to job responsibilities. Now again, you can see that for the most part you're hanging out like everybody else, nothing statistically significant. And this is a good example down here in this bottom row why we provide the comparisons for you. It would be easy to look at, only 41% of our employees feel that their pay is fair in relationship to their job responsibilities. But when we look at similar school districts, you're just over the bubble at that negative 0.22. This is an area school districts across the state and the country are struggling in. So again, not something you want to take lightly, but just know you're not alone and you're really not that far off the mark from how others are feeling. So we said, all right, if we were going to list factors that should be most important when we're considering compensation, where should we focus as far as what would be the most important things to keep in mind? And so your employees said, if you're factoring my compensation, look first at my performance review. And then next at what additional degrees do I have? So do I have additional credits? That would be next. Next, length of service. Then what are any additional duties? So do I take on other curriculum writing, coaching, those types of things? Then do I have additional skills? So certifications, foreign language proficiency, right down to what they felt was least important was national board certification or being a master teacher. So when we dug into professional development a bit, again, we looked at the fact that the pace of implementing new initiatives is appropriate, that 55% strongly agree, and that my supervisor is supportive of my professional development needs, 90% strongly agree. So again, very positive, customized question here for you, but that your employees do feel that your supervisors are responding to their needs as far as professional development. So then we asked, well, how would you like to receive professional development? Attending workshops, either within or outside of the district, were the highest choice. Going to visit other schools, so observing what others were doing. 51% of your employees said that. Workshops with presenters that are within the district, 47%. Attending CESA seminars and classes, 40%. 31% said they don't mind online learning, so participating in e-learning, some online classes or webinars. 28% said they look to their PLC, a study team. 25% said they don't mind a book study, watching some videos, perhaps together. 24% said utilizing a mentoring or a peer observation approach. 21% said I would go to a college campus, take some courses. 18% again had mentoring, internships, coaching. 12% said participate in some sort of an institute, and 10% said action-based research. We wanted to know what were the most convenient days to attend professional development sessions, and it looks like the Fridays and the weekend are out. Not surprisingly. So really, you're kind of across the board as far as what days of the week. And then we said, well, what time is most convenient? And again, you've got folks saying non-school days, summers, perhaps some evenings, so those early weekdays and the evenings, but also during school, if that's a possibility, and then next would be after school, as far as what they would choose. And then we said, what areas would you like professional development? You can see here, managing challenging behaviors. The technology popped up again, addressing student engagement, utilizing instructional technology skills. So we kind of had these in groups. Understanding PBIS, accommodating students with special needs, and working with at-risk students really were those at the top of your list there. And then we broke it apart and said, all right, what do our educators want? So specifically, what are our teachers looking for? Differentiated instruction, so really how do I handle that response to intervention? Literacy instruction strategies, depth of knowledge next, and then team teaching and instructional delivery modalities there. So again, you can see educator effectiveness, not real popular, nor is data analyzing. So we said, all right, what are the 4 most important factors to you when you consider job satisfaction? You can see here compensation and salary was first, meaningful work second, and then making sure they've got decent benefits third, and then that healthy culture, working conditions at 41%, good leadership at 40%. So you can see there's kind of a line after those top 5, but we highlighted the top 4 because we asked folks to identify 4. If you remember from 2 years ago when I visited with you, one of the things that we do is we look at key indexes of staff engagement. So we've said, what are these most important things that in education staff need in order to be engaged? And we've identified really 12 key areas. And we've separated them into 3 categories: people, place, and process. And so when we talk about people, we say, their control over their work environment. Are they able to manage their stress and their overall health? Are they able to have a healthy work-life balance? And do they feel affirmed in the work that they're doing based on compensation, recognition from their supervisor and district leaders, and then support by the community? Next, we look at place. So we say, are our employees equipped? Do they have the tools and the training to be successful? From a collaboration and teamwork standpoint, how do they work with others? Do they have a healthy working relationship with those in their building and within their school and the district? Do they feel that you're of educational excellence? So do they take pride in their work? And do they trust the leadership within their building or their direct supervisor? And then the final 3 we call process. So is there public and parent support and trust? So that healthy interaction between parents and the community. The planning and improvement process. Do they feel that you've got systems in place to get better? And is there a communication chain for continuous feedback, review, making adjustments? And then do they trust district leadership? So the district administration and you, the school board. And then finally, communication. So do your employees feel that there's a healthy sharing of information that's done in a timely manner? So how it works is there's 4 questions within the survey that wrap up and feed each of the indexes. So there's 4 questions that have to do with trust in building leadership, 4 questions that have to do with does the employee feel that they're equipped to do their job. So again, you take the average of when each employee answers 4 questions, and that becomes, now this is the average of the averages, all right? And this is the N. So this is the number of employees that answered all 4 questions for their response to be included in the index. So if I skipped one of the questions, then my other responses to the other 3 questions gets thrown out. So we've created a simple average for your employees when we look across all work groups. And then we've done the same thing we did with the other piece. We've compared you to similar districts. Here we broke these because we didn't ask all the questions that built the indexes, so you don't have responses there. And then we looked for a difference. So we said, again, that 0.2 is statistically significant. And here you can see where is it that you're doing the best, really in your employees' feeling of trust and building leadership. So again, they're at the 0.03. Next, they're feeling, yeah, I'm equipped. I've got the tools and the materials and the training to do my job. Next, their workload. Again, we saw a few questions there that we want to focus some time on as far as being overworked. And then all the way down to areas where, from a thematic standpoint or from one of our indexes, wanting to focus some attention on affirmation and most importantly, that communication and collaboration and teamwork. So how do I function within my team, my PLC? How do I interact with my employees? And then how do I get and share information? Would be areas that you'd want to focus your attention on. But overall, when we look at the data, we can tell you that, and this is a great place to look, really no big outliers. Your employees really hanging out where everybody else is. A few places where you'll want to direct your attention as you look for improvement. But really, we see hundreds and hundreds of these employees in Amery are doing quite well. Questions for me?
So you did touch on the fact that this came from, well, I guess you didn't mention this, came from the Staff and Personnel Committee of the Strategic Plan for our district, but the focus for this was really on professional development for us to receive feedback from all employees, and so that was the main focus. We tried to reduce the survey to make it a little bit more user-friendly and receive higher feedback. But what would you say to someone that wants to develop their own survey versus using your type of a survey that is considered to be valid and reliable due to the resources you have?
Yep, good question. So probably the greatest benefit is really that comparable data. So besides the fact that we've spent years, we've worked with WASB, we've worked with other researchers, and we've streamlined the questions, and we've hundreds and hundreds, thousands of school employees across the state and country have taken the survey. So it allows us, with that comparable data, to put things into perspective for you. So many times, you know, when you get to those questions, when you're like, yikes, only 40% of our employees feel this way, or 25% of our employees feel this way, I'll say, this is an area where teachers are struggling across the state right now. So no need to be concerned. So again, really that comparison data is helpful, being able to wrap your data up into those indexes, but knowing that we're asking questions that are indeed valid and reliable, and we don't have to ask something 17 different ways to get an answer. We know that we can grab a theme, ask 1 or 2 questions, and we've got some good data for you.
Well, thank you very much, Sue. I think you've got a wealth of information. In the interest of time, we do have 6 more presentations tonight.
Ooh, all right.
Well, can I just ask a question? So the trust in like district leadership and school board leadership, it's NA. So there's do we have no questions or feedback on that, or?
Yep. So what happened was because we were focusing on the professional development piece, some of those questions that built those indexes were thrown out. So meaning that we just chose not to ask those questions this time, because we just, the district, like we provided a survey and then the committee looked at it and said, all right, we need to simplify or not ask as many questions, and the priority was the PD piece. So the questions that built those indexes weren't all included.
Well, I can mention, too, that our co-chairs of the Staff and Personnel Committee, where this was actually developed, Jessica Smith and Cheryl Meyer, and we went through the survey, worked with Sue on this, created the survey, again, more focusing on professional development. But
okay.
Those are certainly things that can be surveyed.
Okay, so the priority wasn't really geared towards...
It wasn't as much. It was still student engagement, but it was more so professional development because we wanted to ask all of our levels of staff, our secretaries, custodians, bus drivers, food service staff, as well as our teachers and all educators.
Okay.
Is this survey done every year or every 2 years?
Last one was done 2 years ago, and I don't believe it's ever been done prior to that.
Okay.
Right. So it's a nice way, that Jim can go back and look at 2 years ago's data, or you all can, and say, oh, here's some areas where we've grown in the last 2 years, because the questions for the most part remain the same. And that's part of our commitment, is to try and be able to give you longitudinal data. So many of these base questions are consistent with what we asked in 2016. So you can look at where you were, you look at where you are now, and then again, if you repeat the survey in 2 years, you can say, all right, here's where we are today. So that's, a piece where Jim can go back, look at it, work with your building leadership and if there's some site teams, and say, let's set some goals around areas where we may have seen a decrease, or we know that we're struggling. And then we kind of watch what those numbers look like, 24 months from now.
Okay, well, thanks for all the information, Sue, and I will say that we've already had some administrative discussions regarding some of these results, and we'll dig further into the information and use it for a good purpose.
Great.
Thanks,
all
and
right.
good luck.
Have a wonderful night.
Yep,
Thanks.
you
Take care.
too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we are on to the mini grant presentations. Is there a particular order, or
Wants to arm wrestle people. Yeah, there's no order in particular, but I think there were some people that had another commitment. Ms. Melberg?
Yeah, I'll go first, if that's okay.
It's on already.
Do I have to use it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My name is Jen Melberg, and I am a second grade teacher at Lean Elementary School. And this fall, or last fall, I wrote a mini grant for providing our school with a makerspace classroom. And so our mini grant was chosen, so I just wanted to thank the Women's Club and also the Amery School District for granting us $600 to make this dream come true. Our makerspace classroom is part of our science classroom, and it allows all of our students and all of our classrooms to go use that room whenever it fits in their schedule, and we finally have it up and running. And it just gives the students a variety of different tools to use to expand their learning in their own way. Some different things that we have put in there, we put robotics in there, so they're learning how to code at a kindergarten, first grade, second grade level, just by making this little mouse robot go forward 2 spaces, go left 2 spaces, and try to find the cheese. We put the snap circuits in there where kids are putting circuits together to try to get a light bulb to shine, or try to get a spinner to spin, and they're trying to get it to go faster by putting more power to it. and just a lot of building equipment and just a lot of hands-on manipulatives so the kids can, like the ending quote said, kind of get them to think about how they want to learn it instead of us telling them what to think. So the kids have been loving it. We hope to continue to expand that room as the years go on. But we definitely have a really good start to the program, and we're really enjoying it. So any questions for me?
And this is all second grade level?
It's actually our whole building.
Okay.
Yep. So every classroom is able to use it from the 4Ks all the way to the second grade. Yep, it's just a sign-out program where teachers, when they have the time in their schedule to go use it, they're able to sign up to go bring their kids in it as many times as they want, things like that. My class right now, we're trying to go in there about once a week for about a half hour so the kids can rotate through the different stations. We have a green screen station. I know our Title I program brings kids in there so they make books and things like that. So we have different accessibilities. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have enough time as one teacher to supervise all of the stations in there that kids would need help with, or do you find that you need extra help in there, or is there other help available at that time?
Right now we've been going in there just as a classroom, so just one teacher, and I have found that it is very much doable. I'm definitely just bopping around, and I really just kind of like set up guidelines so my students know, okay, if I need something, obviously we're going to raise our hand, wait patiently. We have different setup instructions, so right before they start, they have to check their map to make sure that they have all the materials they use, and we check them off, and then same thing at the end, because we want to make sure no tools or pieces are missing, so we have just a lot of things in place that way. But it's just a lot of just free play, just a lot of just free experimental creativity, and just do what you want to do. And the kids just really enjoy that piece of it, and they learn.
Are the kids locked into a certain station each for the whole half hour, or can they bounce around from station to station? Or?
Typically what we do is how we've set it up so far is that we've been rotating. So if we go in for like a half hour, 40-minute session, typically we'll hit at least 2 stations at that time, because we don't want to rotate too fast, because some kids want to they want to really get in and get involved, where others just kind of whip through it. So what we've kind of done is we've set up a challenge card, and that's the one they have to start with. So there's a challenge card, and after they've successfully accomplished the challenge, then they can go ahead and expand more. Okay, so one of them, there was a group who was doing the snap circuit, and so they had to make a light shine. And so once they were able to prove to me that they made it shine, so then they decided how they were going to get the light to shine and the spinner to run at the same time. So they were trying to connect it in different ways. So then they were coming up ways to challenge themselves and to challenge each other.
Very cool.
So, yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks.
I am Greta McCarty. I am the middle school and high school media specialist and the district technology integration specialist. And when I applied for this grant, the main purpose and objective I had behind it is outlined up on the screen here, and I'll read that off to you. Really, the objective was to create a makerspace in the middle school library with tools and resources that empower student learning through creativity, innovation, and experimental play, provide personalized learning opportunities that allow students to work and learn beyond the classroom, promote self-directed learning and a participatory culture, embed design thinking, active learning opportunities, and project-based learning, and cultivate and harness the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And after a lot of research into a lot of different tools, the tool that I purchased for the grant, as you can move a slide ahead, is called a Makey. And what this is you can think of it like an invention kit for students, where the possibilities really are endless for them to be creative and innovative with it. We purchased a classroom kit of these, and it comes with a circuit board and then a lot of different wires and alligator clips, so students can connect the circuit board into their computer, and then they can use all the wires and alligator clips to connect the circuit board to everyday objects that conduct electricity. At the very basic level of this, students are able to basically prototype and create controllers and devices that control and can manipulate the computer that they're working on. At a more advanced level, students can dive into computer programming and coding to code how the computer interacts with the everyday objects. Students have had a lot of fun with it, and I've put together a quick video to show what we've done with library programming and the Makey so far this year. It should, if you press on the I can tell just after the first few lessons we've done with it that the objectives I set out when I wrote the grant proposal, that all of those objectives have definitely been met. Students are super excited to continue diving in and exploring with their classroom projects along with personalized learning. So things that we have in the future that we want to continue to do is we want to integrate this into classroom projects along with the library programming. We're going to dig into more in-depth coding and computer programming along with the kind of engineering design aspect of computers, the hardware design. And we're going to have it as a station in our project-based learning makerspace as a permanent place where students can come in and use it as well. So we just want to say thank you to the Women's Club for providing this opportunity for our students. Do you have any questions?
What were some of the, I saw a banana and a flower pot and paper. What were some of the other everyday objects that were interesting?
Yeah, a lot of students use Play-Doh. We use kind of brass brackets where students made interactive posters. So when students walk up to a poster, they can click on it and a speech would play or information about an animal would play. We use tin foil. Anything that has water in it or metal, students were using. And really we just started. with what the possibilities are, and students are coming up with ideas daily and asking to use them. So,
Cool.
Very cool.
thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 more.
So as our next presenter is coming up, I'll just mention that the mini grants have been around for a few years, and thanks to Amery Women's Club, we were able to double that amount from $300 to $600 this year, plus provide mini grants to some of those that were not awarded for each of their buildings or special ed by the principals. So Amery Women's Club, kudos to you.
Hi, I'm Paula Stevens, and I teach mathematics at the high school. And I have a classroom set of TI Inspire calculators, they're called. They're not only do they act as a calculator, they're kind of an interactive tool that we use in the classroom. And something that was on the market that I kind of had on my wish list was these TI Innovator Rovers. And they're a little robotic tool that hooks up to the calculator. You can see the calculator on top. And students can actually program or do some coding and develop the code that will control the rover. And so that's what we did. You want to go ahead? So the students actually did some coding, but this is called a hub, this thing. And so we did some programming on that first. They could change the lights on it. They can make it play sound. All sorts of different activities. And then we moved on to actually controlling the rover. And they did quite a bit of coding, which is what one of the objectives was. There's some pictures of my students actually controlling their robots and trying out some of the features. And then some comments from the students, which I found interesting. Some positive, some negative. Some of them, thought it was hard, but that's okay too. This is one of my favorites. Once I got it to work, I experimented with some more complicated things. So it really was it inspired them to try new things and go beyond what my directions were. Well, do you think I can make it do this? Well, why don't you try it and go ahead. So that was something that was fun to see. Ways that I'm going to use it in the future, obviously some more student coding. What I'm probably the most excited about is being able to develop some applications to use within my regular curriculum. For example, when we're studying angles in geometry, having the rover, having the students not just controlling the rover, but figuring out what angles that they want to input for the code, so it's more of an integrated part of my curriculum and not just a standalone unit. So I'm excited about that. It inspires students to think about technologies, and it's a way to allow for enrichment for students who want to go above and beyond and try some new things. So, and lastly, thank you to the board and those who selected me for the grant, and to the Women's Club for doing the matching funds. So I really enjoyed the project, and I look forward to using the materials in the future. Questions?
How did you know about the rover? You said it was on your wish list, so you knew about it, right?
Yeah, I keep current with some of the TI. Texas Instruments has some websites and blogs where there's different teacher activities and new and innovative things. The rover actually just came out this fall, so when I found out that it had come out, I was looking at some lesson plans and ideas of how I could use it, and thought, why not try for the mini grant, because it's not something that could fit into my regular classroom budget, but this way I got to do it. So,
had you used it before you did it in the classroom?
I had not used I took it home and practiced, yes. Yeah, I did. But I did anticipate all of the problems. I had one group, we just couldn't make it go. Well, we had the A and B ends of the plugs in the wrong way. But now I know for next time that I got to make sure the A's in the A and the B's in the B. So.
Good. Well, that's a really great project to incorporate into a math classroom. That's really hard to find good hands-on learning projects to incorporate into math classrooms. So hats off to you for finding that and keeping current. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, now the kids can't complain that algebra, they'll never use it again.
Right.
You got a spot for it.
They still find a way.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a little
Thanks,
more
Paul.
fun anywhere.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think I sent it to you. Did it show up?
Hi, I'm Amy. Yeah. No, Amy is, the spearhead of our committee, but she is joyfully watching her children run in the regional track meet right now. So I think I know what we're talking about. We were part of a committee this year, Greta and a few other teachers, along with Amy, and we wrote a grant, and thank you for the $600. And what we wanted to really promote was how we all read. And, you know, as teachers, we are leaders in that force, and we want our students to read. And how can we make reading more visible, not only in our schools, but in the community as well? And, you know, it is so important that we read, and Amy just has a quick stat up here about reading 20 minutes at home a day, what that can do. 20 minutes a day equals 3,600 minutes per school year, 1,800,000 words per year, and then it relates to standardized tests. A child who just reads 5 minutes per day, 900 minutes per school year, that's 282,000 words in the, you know, they're reading, and they're in the 50th percentile on the standardized tests. And then students who are reading just a minute a day, that's 180 minutes per school year, 8,000 words per year, and they're down in the 10th percentile. So we know the value of adding minutes to their reading that engages them, and again, we feel that it's an important initiative to take beyond just the school walls. A couple of the people that we researched, Donald Miller, we have Nancy Atwell, again, students will read if we give them the books, the time, and the enthusiastic encouragement to do so. And we just feel like if we can model it, it's one thing to do it, but can we model it in our homes and in our community? So you can go on, Cheryl. And Amy was real instrumental with this, along with Tracy Hendrickson, and they came up with this logo. So you'll see this logo now around town. We all read Family, School, Community, and Amery, a school, family, community, collaborative mini grant for a major purpose. And we are excited that some of the $600 went towards banners, and so you'll see banners in the libraries here, the downtown library. You can go on, Cheryl. And we also have some signs that you'll see when you're exiting the schools. And here's an example of some of the banners, and they're rather large and very well constructed. Did Sally do those? I think Sally might have done them. And then these are metal signs that we're going to attach to a few of the stop signs. And when you leave the elementary school, then all the parents hopefully will stop and read, and it will say, thank you for reading with your child for 20 minutes tonight. And just kind of reminding them the importance of reading. And so the dollars were spent on the banners, the signs, and then also some books for the classrooms. We're trying to beef up the classroom libraries for our students, and again with books that are engaging and enjoyable to them. Is there another slide, Cheryl? Okay. And the books that she bought are what we call bridge books, moving kids from one level to the next. And so many of our kids want that chapter book, but they're not necessarily ready. And so we did some research, found some popular books that will fit that category for those students. And so the teachers were thrilled, the students were thrilled to get these bridge books. So that's where some of the dollars went as well. Classroom libraries are key. Get the right book to the right kid at the right time. So more books, right? And so there's some happy faces there. And here's an example of one of the banners and our sign. And these are two new faces at the Amery Public Library. This is Martha, and now I can't remember her name for the life of me. Amy. Amy? Amy, thank you. And so we're so thrilled to have them at the Amery Public Library, and that is one of our initiatives as well, as to collaborate, you know, with the public library. And this summer, Martha is heading up the summer reading program, and so she has been to our school already promoting the summer reading program, and then she'll be there the last day of school. Cheryl does the cookout, and the parents will see her again, encouraging as many parents as we can to have their children sign up for the program. And recently they've also moved some positions around at the library, and there's a young woman named Heather, and Heather is going to be the adult youth services librarian. And so I'm excited to have her. I bet her on the agenda to talk with Cheryl and I about coming to our staff and inviting our staff to participate in some of their programs. And one of them is they're going to have a summer reading program for adults. And so every time you read a book, you go into the library, put your name in a hat, and you have a chance to win a basket. And I think what better example to set for our kids than to be part of that summer reading program ourselves and then come back and say, hey, I did that as well. Oh, and so with Greta's help, and Jen Melberg alluded to the fact that we have a green screen now. I didn't know a lot about it, but I jumped right in and I said, I think I can do this, Greta. So I grabbed our kids from book club, and then we got in front of the green screen and they read a book, There is a Bird on Your Head. And Cheryl, did you send that? Cheryl, if you open up your email, do you have an email from?
Send it to me. About 5 minutes ago.
Because I just think everyone else is showing these these digital things. It's like, I've got one too that I can show. So what is so cool is, again, just bringing books to life. And this is one of the, a very popular author, Mo Willems. The children just love it, so they're very excited.
Image. Click on the image.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
There you go. Is that, oh, here we go.
There is a bird on your head.
Sorry. Can you put the microphone on? Oh, I don't know. Oh, is it?
Stand up there with the microphone.
Sorry.
Got that one.
Yep. They have So, sorry about the sound, but you got the gist of it. And so again, thank you for the $600. They went towards those bridge books, banners, and this is just the beginning. We're really hoping to continue our collaborative efforts with the Amery Public Library, with the community. Greta did this very thing with our, do you want to just speak to that real quick, what you're doing with the community members?
Yes.
With the green screen?
Yeah, so the We All Read initiative, we're taking these videos where students, classrooms, and we're asking community members and community leaders to read books to students, where we record them on the green screen and have the pages shown behind them, just like you saw in that video. And we're putting those videos in elementary classrooms, along with this next coming year we'll be having them posted around town at businesses and places where students may be sitting with, or children may be sitting with their parents waiting for something, maybe at the dentist office, waiting room, at restaurants, and they can scan a QR code and watch videos of community leaders and students reading books to them. And this really is just a way to connect the community with our students, and we've really found it's been successful so far just in kind of the pilot program, the beginning stages of it, where students are already going up to community members and to high school students who have read books, and they're like, oh, you read to me last night, and I loved the book, and it's already connecting people, and that's the whole point of it, is to connect the community and students all around the love of reading.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's come a long way since the book changed page, right?
So, let's stand right here. So, again, thank you to the women's. Sure. Thank you to the women's group for giving us our grant. Our money went towards the alternative recess program. This is kind of a brand new little piloted thing in our school at the Leon Elementary. And you can see that it is obviously no snow outside, and they're enjoying some of these activities outside. Switch to the next one. Thank you. These are all of the items that we purchased with the dollars that we were given. As you can see, you can find some things back there that you probably played as a kid. Kind of went back and did some swoosh balls, some bean bags. We also did some indoor activities as well as outdoor activities. So you see some wiffle ball throwers, frisbees, things like that for outside, and then stamps and colors and books and things like that for indoor activities. So what we did once we got those is we also got some containers, as you can see, and we put all of them into bags and labeled them so that we could take them. The kids could choose what they were doing for activities. And then what we did was some social skill group instruction. So each group of these kids came in and into the room, and we demonstrated with them, what is the piece of equipment, what do you do with it, how do we take care of it, what are your expectations with that? So are you going, they're going to invite kids to play with them, they're going to have kids come over and ask to play with them, how are we going to interact with this game? So if we could go to the next one. You can see in the pictures behind, these are some of this is one of the social skill group of these two little guys learning how to play the dice game, which is actually kind of a fun one. One rolls the dice, they get a number. The other one rolls the dice and they get an activity. So if they roll a 6 and they get jumping jacks, they do 6 jumping jacks. And they take turns with that back and forth. But some of this, what it does is it's building social awareness. So we're modeling positive role models. So we're modeling for them, but we're also getting them to model for their peers on how to go about working with these games, using games to teach social skills. They love to play games, so that's what a great way to do that. And then building relationships, conflict, playing fair, cooperation, all of those kinds of things. And here's another visual of magnetic tiles that the kids love to do, and this is just an example of us training for those expectations inside as well as what we did for outside. So this was us training to play swoosh ball outside. They were having a hard time getting it going, so one of them said, oh, how about we get some chairs out so we sit still and we can get this to work? And it worked like a charm. And they have a third child in there, and they're being that peer role model, helping them learn how to do that. So yeah, if we keep going. So yeah, we're helping each other, we're working together, we got peer role models and the adult guidance that goes with that to help with the social skill piece. And here on the next one, you'll see us outside. Again, no snow, they're playing frisbee out there, they're playing kickball. And you'll see there's some older kids in here because I also have a group of middle schoolers that come over and they interact with our kids at the elementary school, so that we're coaching kids, we're keeping them engaged, providing individual support before and after and during activities. There's exception, there's direct instruction, there's inclusion with not only special education children but general education children. They have empathy and communication. It's just really a wealth of things that we can do with all of this equipment that we have. So here is an example of all of this community, peer interaction and learning, cooperation, and enhancing friendships, because they're all. It was time to clean up, and each one of them grab a piece of equipment, they're bringing it, but before they could do that, they wanted to cheer off their team. So, what a great thing. And, in our last slide, again, I was able to find a time to take a group picture there. And, so they just, it all says it all. They're happy and excited, so we really thank you for helping us enhance the lives of our students. So, do you have any questions?
Do you find that any kids that looked like they didn't have a place to go before at recess time or were playing by themselves, do you find that you see them now more able to fit into a group more easily and that they're being accepted into those groups?
Absolutely. In fact, when we have these new fun things out there, everybody wants to join them. So they're finding themselves having to say, oh yeah, come and play. And absolutely, it's been very nice that way. And kids that may have a little bit more trouble interacting with others, it's giving them the voice and the communication and the skills to do a better job at that. So yeah,
Fantastic.
It's been a great thing.
Fantastic.
So.
Is this for elementary and intermediate then?
Right now, all of the equipment is in the elementary school.
Okay.
There is a alternative recess 2 already set up in the intermediate school, so they have their own. But yeah, we just incorporate it and share amongst the buildings so that all of the people can use that. So yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think that is it for all the mini grants. So next we move on to the consent agenda items.
Try to the board vouchers are always first.
Okay, I had the vouchers this month, and I will make a motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no one opposed, the motion carries. All right, then we'll...
Yeah, you should do the consent agenda items as a motion, because you just approved the minutes, or the vouchers.
I just did the vouchers.
Yeah.
I was going to go back to the minutes.
Okay.
The vouchers are just traditionally done.
They usually do it all in one.
Oh.
As a consent agenda items as a package.
Okay.
You can do it that way.
Okay. Do we want to review the special meeting minutes or the board minutes for April 30th and the 16th?
No need to just ask if there's any corrections or additions.
Okay.
Yeah.
For our special meeting, wasn't it much more about board roles and responsibilities?
It was
than
just a
personnel?
closed session.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I think the summary of it was specifically listed was about personnel, and we really talked more about board roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, there's certain restrictions by statute that can be done in closed session. Personnel is one.
Right.
Policies are not, and so board role responsibility alone could not be a closed session.
All right. Are there any questions or discussion on the financial statement or the board meeting minutes? Any discussion?
Should we take one motion for all consent agenda?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve all consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Okay, the motion to approve the consent agenda items is carried. All right, community comments. Is there anyone signed up for community comments tonight? No? Okay. Administrative reports.
Okay, I'll just mention that Ms. Schock and Mr. Dörfler are working the regional track meet, and so we'll start out with other administrators present.
Sure. I just want to take a second to highlight a little bit of an event that just took place in our building last Friday. It was kind of one of our busiest days we've had in a long time. We had our first ever project-based learning Genius Hour Expo, and it was a pretty fun event. I want to thank the committee members who made that happen. There was committee reps from every building, especially some of my high flyers in the district that really made things happen. I know Danielle McCall and Lori Leitsky and Kate Weisenbeck were very instrumental in helping with that. Jess Smith. We had over 350 different students present, And basically, we gave them 1 hour a week to research anything they wanted. And we presented on this recently at the school board meeting. But one of the really neat things about it is that we gave the kids a lot of choice and flexibility. And we told them, you need to find a passion project, something that's going to be difficult to research, that will take a lot of time, that you can then present and become kind of the building expert on that topic. And anytime you do that, it takes some time for students to break through because they're looking to be led. They'll ask questions like, well, what can I research? You can research whatever you'd like as long as it's appropriate. Well, what do you mean by I have to present? Can I do this? Yes, you can do that. You can do anything you want. And it took them a long time. And to be honest, too, for some staff members, it was hard because we're so used to having to direct control and move instead of giving them flexibility and freedom to kind of do their thing. And once we got through that, the kids blossomed, and we really, really had an incredible experience. Just like anything, some kids really took it to really high levels, and some students struggled with it a little bit. But we had 350 different presentations, things such as how does stress affect the body. Students researched, one student developed an ice fishing shack and what was the best way to creatively do it that would go off his four-wheeler. One student researched common causes of depression and what are some of the more effective methods to counter it, or how are black holes formed, or how do you code to create your own video game. You name it, whatever they were passionate about, if it was sports, if it was science, if it was history, they were researching it, whether it was music, anything. And we're really pleased with how it worked out, and I really want to thank the school board for giving us some flexibility to try things like this. Anytime you're taking an hour out of, it's only an hour, but an hour a week and upending your schedule for an entire semester, you're hoping that it works out. And we had a lot of parents, grandparents, students, and a lot of really fun people coming in and having a good time. So that was exciting. We followed that up then with our annual 8th grade graduation party, I guess you call it, our youth jam. And when that event was over and I got home at about 11 o'clock, I was so tired. But it was a really great day. So those are a couple of the big things. The next big event we have is our first marching experience of the year for the middle school band, and we'll be marching in the annual Memorial Day parade, and that's always really fun, especially for the 6th graders who've never marched before. So we're looking forward to that.
Speaking of marching, if you want to see something really cute, tomorrow morning our kindergarten friends are going to be marching with the high school band, and they all have a kazoo, and they get in line. It is, seriously, it is the most adorable thing you've ever seen. So it's taking place right away after announcements tomorrow about 8:20, 8:30, and they get right in line with the high school students, and they march down our high school parking lot, or our elementary parking lot, and it is really cute. So, and it's a great way to promote the band for future. I know I've shared so much about the 4K orientation, but I'm really excited to tell you that we just had an amazing success last week. It was Thursday and Friday. And just be known that last year at this time, we had 75 4K families registered. Last week, we had 98. And we had 91 of our families at the orientation. So we are so amazingly happy. I sent out an email today and I said, we rocked it, you guys, because we did a survey of our families, and we already heard back from about a third of them, and it was just overwhelmingly positive. And if you look at Facebook, you will see many future warrior pictures. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
I just want to thank the board once again for the student success coordinator positions that they passed. I wanted you to know I've gotten numerous phone calls from fellow directors and people around CSL 11 going, how in the world did you get that in your district? And really complimenting the district on being so innovative. So I know there's a lot of school districts that are wanting to follow suit, and I just wanted to let you know that you innovate, lead, and succeed. So thank you.
Thank you. I know there's a high school event coming up Sean would probably want to mention, but seniors' last day is coming up next Friday. The senior walk is something that they started, I think they're starting around 9:30-ish. I know they're going to be at the middle school at 10. But if you're in district and you have any connection to anyone that's a senior, the senior walk is where they come through as a class and they high five every student in the school from kindergarten or 4K basically all the way up to their own peers at the high school. And it's a really, really cool thing. So if you're around and want to take part in that, I would encourage it.
It's a very interesting, fun time of the year. The senior walk is really amazing. It's the third year, and I give full credit to Tracy Hendrickson for coming up with that idea and for making it. At first, nobody really knew what that would be like, but it's created so much excitement. I see elementary student teachers encouraging their kids to make big stars with names and the positive event that there is. There's a lot going on at this time, including registration for classes next year, senior picnic on Wednesday of this week, and then their last day, and then, of course, graduation Sunday, June 3rd. And I'll talk to board members later about representation at graduation for that. I just wanted to mention, too, that with the interviews going on this time of the year, it's a very busy time, and also we had a retirement party with 8 retirees, and we had 208 people at a great event celebrating the careers of those 8 retirees. Congratulations, Miss Wesley, and good luck to you and all other retirees.
I'd like to just talk to Tom a little bit because he put out an invitation for our school board members, and I did make it there. And I'm trying to put into words what I saw. It was the variety and everything, but I think the underlying thing that I stopped at several places in that was the kids' feeling of accomplishment. They wanted to talk to you about what they had researched, from samurai weaponry to to the mental health things and everything like that. But in global warming, one young lady, very passionate. It was just so cool to see that these kids, they were there. Some were shy, but they did want to speak with you about what they had researched. So thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to share Keith's sentiments with that too. I was there, want to have a student there. And two, I wanted to come as a board member and talk to as many as I could. Honestly, you could have spent all day there and just talk to the kids. They were so super excited. And, Tom, you kind of mentioned about the kids who, didn't probably put in as much effort. And honestly, I thought that was a great learning experience for those kids too, because they kind of saw what everybody else had done, and it was a great learning experience that I would guess that if you did that next year with them, some of those 6th and 7th grade kids will beef it up and amp it up next year and realize that it was a really, an opportunity that they probably missed this year, but wish that they hadn't. So hats off to you. It was amazing, and my student loved it too. So, thanks. And then Cheryl, Mrs. Meyer, I had a question for you as well with participation in the 4K program coming up. What do you think made more families show up this year? Did you promote more, or how did that work out?
I think some of the promotion, I think the way that we ran the 4K was more interactive. In the past, we had more of a sit and get, and we decided we needed to change like we do with our students. We need to make it more motivating and interactive, and we invited the children, and I just think that created more awareness throughout our community. Or maybe our numbers are growing. We usually get anywhere between 10 and 17 new 4K students every summer. So we might be looking at another section if this continues, because most of our sections are at 19 and 20.
Fantastic. I did see on Facebook some of the promotion of the stations being set up this year for being interactive, like the carnivals that typically go on at Leon Elementary. So that was a great idea, I think. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, I guess we'll start with you since you're the WASB spring meetings. You went to a conference a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And you just wanted to talk about, well, you and Aaron and Keith all went.
Yes.
So we'll just go down the row here and you can each share what you learned.
I thought that the Wisconsin Association of School Board meetings that I attended were helpful for new school board members, learning about policy and some vision that that organization has for school districts in general across the state. It was informational in learning your role, your responsibility, what you can and maybe as you can do and what's maybe frowned upon from doing. There was lots of good information. I think there's still more information out there to be had and to tailor to our district and what our needs are.
Yeah, I thought it was informative. There's obviously a lot to learn being a new board member and understanding the roles and that a board member has, and really what a board member is involved in and what they're not involved in, what's delegated to other people, and so I think that's helpful, and just understanding the importance of working with the district administrator and the community, and how best to do that as a board member.
Yeah, I went through the PowerPoint a little bit. I went to the one in Chippewa Falls after the next day, and that, some of the highlights that I saw there was, they did some studies and that, and as a board, we're here to create a workplace for staff that's safe and supportive, and with Act 10 and everything, we need to advocate for our staff, because there is no organization for our staff right now to group together and do that. So that was one of the things they mentioned. Acronyms. That was one that we talked about. I mean, everybody talks about them, and it's really kind of important to put those words behind those letters. PBL, EEN, all that stuff. Even we talk about those things, and for the people at home, it'd be a good thing to remember to do that. I had a couple more here that I highlighted. One thing that was interesting when we go into open meetings law, and that is the fact they were talking about, group texts among the board, and those are open records, and those have to be recorded and kept. The only other thing they talked about there was using like email with a blind copy, is that what or whatever, so that when the four of us get a text or an email, that if I respond, you don't see my response. So, because that can be construed as a meeting if we start responding it in group texts or group emails. That we need to be real careful about. Talk about that. Here was the other one. And then he talked about public records. So I'm sitting here and I'm writing. That's not a public record. That's my personal notes for that. So those kind of things are okay to use as long as it's for myself and not shared amongst others. Public records requests, they don't have to be made in writing. They can be verbal, specific, and that. So we need to make sure that we're always open to the public for that. And here's one that's really conflict of interest. With the statute 19.59, it says no local public official may use his or her public position or office to obtain financial gain or anything of substantial value for private benefit. They're even talking about getting a can of pop bought for you. That can send up a flag that you have a conflict of interest because somebody did that.
It was Wisconsin, so it was a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, it could be. Well, I was going to say beer, but you filled in that blank. Okay. All right.
That's the one that they used for us in Turtle Lake. But we were in Turtle Lake. So.
Right. Yeah. And maybe the biggest thing to understand is, our WAS legal counsel, they're there for us. And last year, Barry Forbes said they answered over 6,000 questions.
Yes.
So as board members, we can use them as a resource to call, and especially he was talking with the conflict of interest. If you think you have something that you're not sure of, I absolutely call them, and they will get back to you on that. So that's open for us for the school board to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a good meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Helpful.
And I mean, I know that Barry Forbes, and if you go just to the WASB website, they have it right on the cover, the number to call.
Yep.
For any legal advice you need
Yes.
regarding conflicts of interest, or you have questions regarding what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Use that number before, and I agree with you on the acronyms. I mean, I've read articles even in the Wisconsin School Board Association magazine, and it's not just us, it's everyone. They just use them, and I have to look it up. What is
Yeah.
an S, whatever?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Student learning of SLO.
Oh,
That's
SLO.
what it was. Like, what is that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that information, and I guess we are now moving on to informational items.
Would you mind, under action items, I know Miss Nelson is here,
Oh.
and she's got a couple family members. that-
No problem.
If you could slide.
We can skip. We've
Yeah.
done that before. Skip around here. Okay. We will move to the, let's see, it was
PLE. The meal prices.
Oh, I see.
So this is my least favorite showing to you guys of the year. The PLE this year, though, the USDA came out with, it is the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2018.
Could you just define PLE for everybody?
Yeah. Right. Paid lunch equity. So the PLE tool is basically used to determine to verify that our federal reimbursements for free and reduced students aren't going back and covering price adjustments from those that pay for their meals, is the gist of it. So according to the PLE, we would have to raise our lunch prices again, which I don't really want to, and we have the option actually this year. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2018 is allowing school food authorities that meet the requirements to be exempt from raising their meal prices for just this school year. So it's a one-year exemption, and the qualifications for that is having a positive Fund 50 account as of January 31st of 2018. As of January 31st, 2018, we were positive significantly. So if it was up to me, my recommendation would be not to raise meal prices. I did kind of reach out to the surrounding schools. We are on the higher end of other meal prices. And to what it comes down to is my main goal is to feed the kids. I think that if we raise our meal prices again, I'm going to have a really hard time having families able to afford that meal. When you think of it, $3 isn't a lot for a student, but when you add that up and they have breakfast and they have 4 children, that's a lot a day.
Do you think if we don't raise our price this year that it's going to go up more significantly next year?
There isn't that much guidance as far as what they'll bring to us for next year. I know I've talked to other school food authorities, and they are still raising the meal prices for that reason, because they don't want to not raise it one year and then come back and have to raise it significantly all in one step. So according to the numbers, the total price increase was 6 cents, and that table actually down a little bit more. So these numbers right here, this is based off of our meals sold in October, and the different rates is elementary and intermediate, middle school, and then high school. So that is just the paid lunches, and then this is where the numbers determined to find out what the increase is. So then going down, this is what the suggested meal prices would be. I did add this new line because the USDA is requiring pre-K meal portions. They're about half of what the elementary students get, so I don't find it very just that they would pay the same meal price for that. So the first line would be the pre-K meal price.
Okay.
Then the second line would indicate elementary and intermediate. Third would be middle school, and fourth would be high school, to get to that rounded number that we need to have.
Where are you at now then with those prices?
Right now, we are at, if you go up,
Yep.
the numbers there. So $3 at the high school, $2.95 at the middle school, keep going up, and then $2.70 at the elementary
And you don't have the
intermediate.
pre-K on there.
No, I don't have a current pre-K meal price.
Okay, so we aren't charging, what do you?
They pay the $270 right now.
Okay, all right, so we'd help them out. By
So-
going to the 250.
So your recommendation is to take advantage of this exemption period of 1 year and not raise prices?
I mean, I really feel that it would benefit the families.
I agree.
I don't want to lose more families because they can't afford it, and then therefore they're not getting nutritious food offered to them. That's kind of the stance that I...
And I agree, because I think we all know that there's some issues with regard to families having problems paying for
Right, and I
lunch,
know
so-
that, and they have the free and reduced program, but there's those families that are right at that border. So they don't qualify for any reduced benefits, but they still struggle to pay the $270 a meal.
Would you have a pre-K meal price then for the 2018-2019 school year?
Yeah, I would still like to implement a pre-K meal price.
Okay.
Does that affect Clubhouse kids at all, or is that only affecting the 4K program?
Clubhouse kids their meals are included with their tuition.
Okay.
Well,
So your recommendation is to hold the prices for these 3 groups and then reduce the pre-K to $250?
Mm-hmm.
What was our fund balance?
As of that date?
Yeah. I know we usually run pretty good there.
Yes. Hold on, I have it right here. As of that date, it was $278,638.
And I would like to mention that every year we've added to the Fund 50 fund balance. Fund 50 is just the school nutrition, separate from Fund 10. And this is the only school district that I've worked with in over 30 years where there is not a negative. In other words, we're making money every year, but we're required to raise those prices through this.
Yeah, and that's all determined on the tool.
yeah, and unfortunately we had to last year.
I know, I tried so hard last year too.
We've had a raise for the last several years, right?
Yeah, I
When
think
we
prior
really
to me
need
coming, I believe, because I have some of the old tools, prior to me coming it has, and the ones that I have, it's been a consistent, about a 10-cent average, I think, across the board raise.
So now we have a chance to not raise, and we really don't have to raise, right? And we have
Right.
I mean, so previous years to try and get the exemption, we had to have 3 months of operating expenses in our balance. This dollar amount that I shared with you is still not that 3 months. I believe is about another 100,000, a little bit less, to make the 3-month balance.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to use the exemption and not raise school lunch prices for this year according to the exhibit and recommendation.
And I just also want to clarify too that this is just student meals. As far as information regarding adult meals, I'm not sure if I'll have to raise them yet. That's all based on what the reimbursement rates are when they come back.
But right now, the only item on the the only action item is for the students at this
Correct.
time. Correct. Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Did you want to amend that to include lowering the pre-K meal price now or not?
The numbers that I had down further, I pulled out those pre-K meal numbers. That 634 was that number of pre-K meals in the month of October. So that was like a real number. I didn't just make it up.
Okay.
As far as of the original part 1, that was pre-K through 5th.
Yeah.
So then that's pre-K, and then line 2 is kindergarten through 5th.
So those will be the prices.
No, just
the pre-K.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And pre-K was $250
It would
last
be-
year too. So
No, pre-K paid the $270.
Do you think that's a thing that is necessary, or?
Well, I think it's necessary as a courtesy. Their portion sizes, their requirements are less food than kindergarten through 5th grade, and that's a new thing that we have had to implement for them. So it's a courtesy if you guys, I think that they're getting less food, so their cost shouldn't be as much, but if you think that that would put my department at risk, then
you only talk.
I can amend my motion to lower the price.
Just pre-K.
Just pre-K 20 cents, because it was $270 to $250 next year.
I'll second the amendment.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion in addition to the amendment?
You got to do the amendment first.
Oh, okay. All in favor of
we could just
amending,
redo the motion.
Yes, I was going to do both at the same time.
Yep.
All in favor of the motion amending the pre-K from 270 to 250?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The amended motion carries.
No, now you got to vote on the
Now we will vote on the
Amendment to the
motion.
motion. Now the
Yes.
motion is
Now the motion is to use the exemption and not to raise lunch prices for the upcoming school year.
and to
and
lower
reduce the price of the
pre-K.
pre-K.
I thought we already did that, but okay.
Well, that
and
has to be all
lower.
part of it.
All right. All in favor?
Oh, second?
I second that.
Did you? Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that motion carries too.
Thanks.
All right, so now we are going back to informational items.
Okay, I just want to mention that regarding budget projections for next year, we are looking at $204 per pupil increase, so that's positive, and that's based on last year's biennial budget, so we're still projecting 4.1% increase for revenue. That's all I have to say at that point, because I know there's one more at this point. There's one more presentation. So moving on then to legislative update, I will just mention that there was a Blue Ribbon Commission meeting today, actually, in Turtle Lake. I didn't attend. There have been a number of Blue Ribbon Commission meetings on school funding, and so therefore there's further discussion. I did meet with 6 legislators also a week ago, and the key topic of discussion was once again school funding. Any questions on those items? Otherwise, I'd love to introduce a graduate of Amery who's been very patient waiting through this meeting, Mr. Josh Strike. And we're going to talk a little about deferred maintenance and security. And Josh has a great PowerPoint that sort of brings everything together regarding our strategic plan and forward planning for technology and safety and security.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me this evening. As Jim had mentioned, my name's Josh Strike, and I work for Heartland Business Systems. As you had mentioned, I'm also a graduate from the Amery School District. So, I've been doing this for 13 years now at Heartland Business Systems, and I've presented in front of a lot of boards, but presenting in front of your alma mater, there's the bar that's got to be raised a little bit higher, but it really is a privilege, and thanks for having me here tonight. Mr. Kupta and Mr. Wallen had asked me to come in and present on the technology strategy plan that we've been putting in place. And really this strategy has been kind of a 4-year effort for us, but over the last year, we have really been razor focused on the life safety, school safety strategies as it relates to upgrading the systems. And that's what I want to share. So I thought it'd be helpful to kind of talk a little bit about, where are we now? I think it's important to talk about leveraging the existing investments that the district has made. And then we're going to talk about a K-12 reference architecture, right? We need to make upgrades that are tried, they're true. Amery cannot be the first school district to try something here, especially in a life safety situation. And then, of course, get into some recommendations. So one of the things that was important to us as we met as a group is really executing on the taxpayer promise. And this is something that probably should look very familiar to you, right? It's really your content. But in working with the district over the last 4 years, I can confidently stand proud on the technology side of it. The district has done an amazing job executing on that promise to the taxpayers. You've replaced a lot of devices for the staff and students. We've made major significant infrastructure upgrades from switches, your wireless, your servers, and many more devices are being introduced. The neat thing about these different buckets here and technology, being a technology guy myself, is that as you look at the instructional resources, the staff, the maintenance and security, in some form or another, technology has some way of impacting us getting to kind of the end goal there, right? But in particular tonight, I wanted to focus on the maintenance and security portion for executing on the taxpayer promise, and even more in particular on the upgrade of the security systems and camera systems. Next slide, please. So this probably also looks familiar to you, right? But just like us, it was important, before we get to where we're going, it's important to understand where we're at. And so the process that we took is similar to the districts in the Vision 2020. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. And so our process to getting us to recommendations is, first, it was really important for us to understand what the district's mission, what the initiatives are, and even understand what the challenges are that you're facing today as it relates to your technology systems and life safety systems. Second phase that we took was really bringing in members from our team and working with members from your team and really getting a good understanding of what is the kind of the state of the state within the district today, right? What systems do you have? And so our teams came, worked with yours on doing physical walkthroughs of all of the buildings. We looked at every one of your door entrances. We looked at walked through and identified areas of high need for video surveillance systems. We looked at all of your paging systems, your bell systems. And so we got a really good idea of what that current state is. From there, we developed a target state, which eventually leads into a gap analysis. So now that we know where you're at, understanding where you're going, what parts and pieces do we need to get to that end goal, which where I really feel we're here today is what I'll call a rough order of magnitude, or a place that we can execute from. What I'm trying to depict here is that in a life safety situation, our school districts they have many different types of applications, right? You have bells and paging systems. You have wireless systems. You obviously have a phone system. You have door access control. You have email. You have a lot of mobile devices, right? And technology has really impacted many of our day-to-day operations. But in life safety situations, it's also created opportunities, but challenges. And what I mean by that is you have all of these systems today, right? And many schools are in this situation, but they're disparate systems. None of them are designed to work together in most cases, right? And so if you wouldn't mind, our strategy that we came up with as a team collectively is that we were trying to make it so that every second matters. It doesn't matter if it's a severe weather alert or if there's an intruder in the building. The more integration that we can do with our systems that we have or need to improve upon will make a huge difference. So some of the areas of focus that we had collectively from Heartland and the school district to focus on was access control, so door access, getting into your doors, right? Video surveillance, alert notification, those are things also like your paging and bell systems. And then our other focus was obviously the technology integration, but not only for what we're talking about tonight, but in years from now, right? Maybe we could talk about, hey, how do we leverage the investments that we made in our life safety systems to further along what we're doing for printing for our students, checking out lunch accounts, right? There's many opportunities that we have there. So, but door access control, video surveillance, bells and paging were real major areas of focus for us collectively. So one of the things that I thought would be helpful is when I say integration and all these disparate systems and integrating these disparate systems, what does that really mean? And so I was hoping that I could put in kind of one slide here and maybe just give examples of situations that I'm referring to when I talk about integration. But the first thing here is it mentions IT as the core. What does that really mean? Maybe just putting it in perspective, like if you were to build a house, right? we want to have a solid foundation. Nobody would want to build their house on quicksand, right? Well, I look at the technology systems the same way. We have to have a solid foundation to build upon. Thankfully, here at Amery, right, over the last 3-4 years, we've made significant investments in a robust, redundant switching infrastructure. We've made huge investments in a robust, redundant wireless environment. And we've also made huge investments in a robust, redundant phone system, right? So as I look at a technology strategy, a life safety strategy, those are huge, key, core foundational pieces to build upon, right? And so as we get into the different kind of buckets or areas of integration, I want to focus on what I'll call the walls of building a house now. We got our bells and paging, we have our security cameras and door access control, and then we also have on-prem and off-prem notification. So again, I hope that maybe it'll just be helpful if I give you a couple scenarios of what I mean by integration, and I'll start with your bell system, right? Right now, we have an opportunity to basically pre-build the entire year of our bell schedule using software. This software is already owned by the district, right? We already have that capability with the software you have. But what's great about that is that now there's some things that we can do as it relates to early release, right? We don't have to manually change the bell schedules then because we've already got it pre-built all year long. There are things like PD days that we have that affect the bell schedule. But there are some things that we can't control at all, like bad weather or 2-hour delays, right? So now we have the opportunity with a click of a couple mouse clicks from anywhere, from any device, whoever we give those privileges to automatically change the bell schedule from a standard day to a 2-hour delay, which is really, really helpful. So that's an example of what I mean by integration with the bell schedule. And that's all controlled by the same servers that your telephone system is running on, okay? The next piece of that would be speakers and clocks, okay? There's a lot of manual intervention today with your speaker and clock systems. It's kind of disparate. Your paging systems cannot talk to each other right now, so an example of that would be if administration wanted to do a district-wide page in the event of any emergency situation, we would have the opportunity to do that with some upgrades. Right now we cannot do that, right? The district has made significant investments in what's called a fiber optic backbone here, where essentially we've connected all the buildings. So through some upgrades, now we can make a district-wide page in the event of any situation, or a congratulations to whatever sporting team gives us the opportunity to do that. Secondly, get into some security cameras and door access control. A quick, easy, simple example would be is at your buildings right now, you've probably noticed, let's say I come in as a visitor, right? Doors are locked because it's school hour time, right? So I have to go up to the intercom and push the button, right? There's a camera on the intercoms that are on those buttons right now. And then that gets back to the secretary that's manning the station there, right? Well, that's as simple as that system gets right there. What we're trying to do is leverage more of what you have. Again, every second counts in any event. So now what's being proposed would be, I'm a visitor coming to the school during school hours. Doors are locked. I push the intercom button, right? Now we have the opportunity to take that camera feed and send that camera feed via video back to the phones that you already have. So now the secretary would be able to see live video of the visitor. They would also have live audio of that visitor, whether it's on the phone, their PC, and whatnot. But in the same breath, say, check me out, okay, I see why you're here, it's okay. On the same phone that you've already invested in, we can push a button and automatically release the doors or lock the doors, right? It's a big deal when it comes to visitor management in that regard. And then lastly, we can now integrate that video feed. So again, as a visitor, I can integrate that video feed to be recording on my video recording surveillance servers right now. That's a big deal, right? We can record any incident outside, visitors coming in outside, and bring that back and play that back on your video management servers. So in case there is an event where law enforcement may need that, we have that availability to provide that information to them. Today we do not have that, okay? And then lastly, kind of the last wall I want to talk about is the district has spent, again, millions of dollars on devices, staff devices, student devices. It's a great service, right? One-to-one programs that we have here. Why not extend the opportunity to provide notifications, again, in any event, to all of the devices that you already have, right, in any given situation? And I just wanted to talk about that. And so, again, let's just say, hey, as an administrator, I want to know when 911 is being dialed. But also from there, wouldn't it be great if I could have a live recording of what's going on that 911 call so that I can click on a link and say, all right, here's what's going on. I can get all the information that I need so I can appropriately respond and react quicker, right? So hopefully that kind of gives a better example of what I'm referring to from an integration perspective. But again, the goal was every second matters, whether it's severe weather or an intruder, and the more we can integrate, the more that's going to help. I thought it would be helpful to quantify some of this, right? So I'm just going to start with door access control. So again, our teams work together with the team here at Amery, and we walked through all of the buildings and identified all of the doors. And so of this, we identified that there was 31 doors that needed readers. Those readers would be, things that with a badge allow me to get into the door by scanning my badge. The other thing that we had talked about, though, is not all doors need readers, but we do want to know when school is in session, if there's a door open that shouldn't be, we need to be notified and alerted like that there's a door open so that we can address those issues. And then, of course, the intercom integration with that. We also did a walkthrough with the team for some video surveillance upgrades and recommendations. Right now, your video surveillance is what's called an analog system, and if I can compare that to something that I think we all know is that, it's like comparing an analog TV that we all used to have to a high definition with the DVR type services. That's the difference here, and it's really not a matter of if we're going to replace it, it's a matter of when you're going to replace it. And so when we did our walkthroughs, we identified in the high school that there was 47 cameras that would be required. In the middle school and intermediate, identified 28 cameras. And in the elementary school, identified 33 cameras. And so in working with the district staff, we also had some principal feedback in relation to the plan, and they had offered some suggestions on maybe some camera movements or placements and whatnot, but also worked with principals at the building level to ensure that our counts are kind of accurate for a phase 1 opportunity there. And then lastly, the paging and bell system for district-wide. Again, the district already owns the software to give us some of these capabilities, but in order to take full advantage, we identified that there was about 214 speaker and clock type systems that would need to be implemented. Again, those speakers and clocks, they have the ability to do a scrolling text. What does that mean, right? If there is a page, right, or we wanted to send out a notification to the classrooms, hey, there's a tornado warning, we can have those speaker clocks do scrolling text as well as the amplified sound throughout them. Of course, two-way communication, and then all of the integration there. So again, just wanted to quantify the opportunity as far as the areas of integration. And I'm going to pause right there and just allow for some questions.
When you're talking about the camera numbers, do you know what currently do we have in our buildings now versus?
20th high school,
okay.
Intermediate, it's about 16.
Okay, so it's a significant increase in the cameras?
And on top of that, they're at least 12 years old, if not older. I don't know how old they are.
I have some middle school cameras that are over 20 years old. You can't even hardly see them anymore. They're black and white and gray and
grainy.
really bad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a really good question, though, and I think the other thing to kind of tie into that is that, again, with analog cameras versus the more IP-based cameras that we have available today, you can do so much more with one camera than in today's standards than you can with the cameras that are existing in the environment. So rather than replacing even just a one-for-one, right, it might be less than that than we would have to replace.
So you're suggesting we just maybe not have those kind of numbers of cameras. Oh, that's like the premium coverage, but to go with what we have now and just replace the ones we have?
Those will cover the outside parking lots, all parking lots. Right now we don't have any parking lots covered. And then we brought it up to all the principals where the location that they wanted the buildings, and they agreed with the recommendations in all locations.
So the clocks that would be replaced, are they then all digital clocks?
They are. So the benefit to this is that they're all IP-based digital type clocks. And so what happens is that we'd plug those into the classroom. Those go back onto your switching infrastructure that, again, is robust and redundant. The more we can tie into your existing investments where we made your systems redundant, that means more of the things that you put on top of that become more highly available, more redundant, just by sheer nature of tying them into an IP system.
So kind of back to what Keith asked, like this is kind of the premium package. We can tweak it a little bit based to our needs, and maybe not have 47 cameras, maybe have half, or whatever is recommended by the principal and IT department. And our budget.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these are things that we can build upon, right? So to your point, maybe we don't do the 47 cameras, maybe it's 25. Yeah. And the one thing that I didn't display tonight, but we have all of your building maps that identify where those projected camera locations would be and the angle that we're trying to get within those cameras. So we put in the work, the same thing that we've done on the speaker side, identifying where the speakers would go and whatnot. So if that's something that you'd like to share, we do have that information available too.
So if we were going to do this over a 3-year period, what would you consider to be the most important?
Well, that's a very good question, and we have some great people in the room here that could probably help me. George, Clint, they could probably help me with kind of knowing your systems, much better than I do, of course.
I guess one thing I'd like to maybe reframe the question and the thinking on this. You could do a phase-in over 3 years, or you could do something like an implementation that you would pay over 3 years. So to do a piecemeal or a phase 1 and then phase 2 come back and bring all that labor back. So one thing I want to point out is also this summer we're doing some major upgrades that the board had approved at Leon Elementary. We'll have all ceiling tile being replaced. We could run the wires, do the camera work, do everything, and have it done while the tile is out this summer. And again, this is also just an informational. This is the first step, but this is an informational item. What I'd like to do is work with Building Grounds Committee, work with Clint and George and Tom Olson, our new Transportation Grounds Director, and with Josh, and look at some big ticket items like this and put together a financial plan for implementation. We've just gotten this to digest for a few days, and so although it could be, I guess I call it piecemeal implemented, we've got so much of the infrastructure, much of the servers, the security platforms started and applications in place. What we'd like to do is consider and work with Heartland, who's already implemented our phone system, and look at the possibility and the feasibility of implementing this system. Now, we did meet, and we are continuing to meet with our safety grant writing committee that just started writing the safety grant that will be submitted by June 8th. That's up to $100,000. Right. And we believe that will likely qualify for at least $20,000 per building for security cameras. So if we're going to implement something like this, we can't really phase it in over a number of years. It would have to be, what are you going to do to implement in 2018-19? Because the grant requirement through the Department of Justice is that it has to be implemented during the 18-19 school year.
And when were those funds going to be released, Jim?
Well, we'll know within a month, I believe, of June 8th, but we first have to submit that application, which we've got a great committee, Mr. Durfler's chairing and working together with a number of people in the district. So,
and that would give us time then to decide and get that work done while we have ceiling
right.
down.
And actually, we've had good foresight and good planning and great fortune by having the referendum that passed, by Clint working with Josh, and Clinton, George, and I went to Green Bay last year, and we talked with Heartland. They've already implemented the phone system. We've got these video phones already. What do you call the underground? Not the cable, but the
fiber optic investment.
The fiber optics in place, and so much of the infrastructure is in place through this great planning that we could implement so much of this, and we don't have to use the maintenance security funds that were identified. We could offset that using this $100,000 potential maximum grant and do a phase, not a phase-in, but rather do a large project like this and pay for it by financing it out over a couple of years and get all this work done. So the safety audit that's required by the Department of Justice, we're ahead of the game. Josh has already got it done. We've got that piece done, working with the police departments that have jurisdiction within our school district. I already have a letter from Chief Marson, and I'll get another letter from Polk County Sheriff supporting our efforts. So most school districts in the state, and I would bet 80 to 90% of them will be applying for this $100 million from the state that was approved. But we're, I think, way ahead of most, if not close to all of the rest of the school districts by what we've been planning, by what we've got in place already.
Our door access right now, the controls that we have, so when you go up to the door and you ring the buzzer, how currently is that set for somebody to let us in? Do they have to go somewhere and push a button to unlock that, or how does that work?
When you come in and press the button, it rings in the office. It comes to it's a recorded camera, or I don't know if it's recorded, but it comes to a camera where you can then see the person and talk to them, interact with them, and then decide if you're going to let them in and why. They have to state who they are and what they're there for.
Right. Well, I mean, like, how do they physically then? Let's say I'm, sitting in the office, and then I see them, and I say, oh, okay, I'll let her in. Does she have to go to the door, the wall?
No, they're right next to her desk. There's a box, and the box has a button, and you press the button.
But again, that's an old analog system, and
right.
Now we've got these IP phones and the upgraded system that will integrate everything. What I love about this is we always look at how things fit together, how the gears mesh, and how we can do things the right way in education. And to me, this fits everything together. It fits all of our door entrance system. It fits our phones, our bell system, our intercom system. It all works together so nicely. So we won't have to piecemeal all these different analog and older antiquated systems.
And the badge upgrade would be to get away from the fobs then? Those would no longer be necessary? It would just be
the badges would be for visitors, but
yeah, you can use a badge, you can use a fob, whatever the district prefers. It doesn't really matter. Whether it's a fob or a badge, that's just really your way to get into the building as an employee or a member of the district, right? So really, it's a preference of the district on whatever they want to use, again, whether it's a badge or a fob.
It's just thinking if they would replace, then we wouldn't have to carry two, if your badge you wouldn't have to carry a fob and you have your ID badge. Your ID badge would serve as, or could serve as, an entrance in?
It could, and that's kind of some of the other, forward-thinking technology integration that we're trying to do is like, okay, we can't predict the future. Nobody's a fortune teller, but maybe it would be great if we can not only get into the buildings with this, but eventually wouldn't it be great to check out library books, eat lunch with it,
right.
Whatever it may be, kind of on an integrated system like that. We're a ways from that yet, but I'm just trying to kind of provide some vision.
Right. That was my question, where that was going to go. Okay.
And right now, if someone were to leave during the school day, like the office doesn't know a door just opened, you know, on the south side of the high school, correct? I mean,
Correct.
I know students sometimes, I'm sure Mr. Durfler can tell you, will just leave, right?
Never. Not here.
But it is
Yes, that is correct.
and this will allow alarm to go off, or obviously not throughout the whole school, but at least some notification to the office that this door just opened so they can.
Exactly. So we can set up whatever users we decide as a team that gets those notifications and decide what means of notification that they're going to get.
Okay.
Great.
I think this is something that we'll bring back. We'll put together the financial package and work on putting it all together, and especially with this potential Safe Schools grant. It's something that we look at phasing in, working on implementing rather.
All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, up next is the EEE, which stands for Energy Efficiency Exemptions.
Yes, you've heard it so many times over the years, and
Spreadsheet of proposed projects.
we've got a nice spreadsheet here that shows the energy efficiency exemptions that we'll put up there. So there was no energy efficiency exemption available in 2012-13, and our district mill rate was 11.05. You can see from 2013-14, the first energy exemption that the district did, and this is for upgrading windows, doors, lighting, and all energy efficiency items. The district purchased a couple of buses one year. Another bus even purchased a liquid propane gas bus one year. That's since we've sold and it's gone, but we have other buses that have been purchased and they're more fuel efficient, so they qualify. But again, the mill rate each year has dropped from 11.93, 11.92, 11.29, last year 11.18, and this current year it's at 11.14. So you can see the dollar amounts. Last year we had $340,000 in EEE, or energy efficiency exemptions. This year we have that amount again, and in December there was the 100-year moratorium the governor had signed in the biennial budget, but we were able to approve for the next 2 years another $340,000 to be used for energy efficiency exemptions. We'll go to the next slide, and we'll just show what we came up with for proposed projects. And one of the things on our list that we had was direct digital controls, or DDCs, for next year. Actually, this summer, July 1 is our fiscal year. It's about $139,000 cost, and I know this has been discussed for a number of years in the district. George had this on our feasibility plan for years. Also, I guess the rest of the items in 1819, a school bus that we've been able to negotiate a good price and a flat rate fee of much less than the 5%. And then LED lights at the high school and middle school, including middle school gym and high school classrooms and gym. And then the fees that are charged to guarantee the efficiencies from a performance company. And the total there you see is $340,000. And if we just slide up a little, you'll see the 2019-20 direct digital controls. And this is what I've learned a lot from George over the years as to what this is. This controls the whole HVAC system and allows him to log in and to change the temperature, for instance, in a specific room. If there's a room that's 80 degrees on a hot day, he can cool it down, or if it's too cold in the winter, he can warm it up. There's a server room, I know, that on a 70-degree day, it's over 80 degrees in that room, or even on a 65-degree day. So we have to continually monitor that. And for instance, the direct digital control system in our high school is how many years old, George?
2007.
Okay, 2007. And when New Richmond High School was built, they've already replaced their system, and that's only a few years old. It's not as old as our high school system. So being able to control, or rather replace these systems will help a lot. And then LED lighting is listed for the next, the second year of EEE, and that is for middle and intermediate school LED higher efficiency lights, high school auditorium LED lights, and then the fees to total $340,000. So these are already approved items. I'm just reporting back to the board on updates, and that George and I have met and we've identified these specific projects. Are there any questions on EEE? It was in December again that the board passed separate resolutions for these energy efficiency exemptions. Okay, then moving ahead. There's a donation that was made by a carpenter who is semi-retired but who's worked with the school district considerably. I know that he put the roof on the track shed last fall, and he actually built the facility, the building, storage facility and concession stand to the south of the high school, between the soccer field and high school. So this is a picture of a trailer that he's donating to the school district worth about $1,500 for the house building project. Mr. Ganji has that house building project plans being progressing. He has the plans and has students now, 10 students in the class, and has plans to get it started this summer. So they'll hit the road running in the fall and complete the house during next school year. So there's two different angles of this trailer. Just wanted to thank Mark Bottleson for donating this. Josh Ganji had told me a couple months ago that they would need a trailer for on-site for storing and locking up their power tools and equipment. And he sent me an email one day and said, I have this deal on a trailer on Craigslist, can I buy it? And within the hour I saw the email and replied back, buy it. And he replied back, it's already gone. So it was nice to get this nice equipment trailer. So thanks to Mark Bottleson for that. Next item we have, it's okay to keep going.
Go ahead. You got the rest of the information on
We
it.
have budget and expense and budget review. I just want to get up and stretch here. So you can see we have the budgeted amount of the dollars, and if I had that nice display, I'll bring that for our next board meeting. What we talked about for the referendum, the $1.9 million recurring referendum for this year, we have maintenance and security, which we anticipated would be about $700,000, technology around $500,000, curriculum of $150,000, and our staff of about 5 restoring staff positions of about $550,000 for $1.9 million this year. So to scroll back up to the top, you'll see maintenance and security. These are the items that we had purchased. We paid LHB. I don't know what it stands for, but that's our architectural firm. That's about $59,000. We paid about $5,000 last year. The rest of it was this year. B&S was our contractor. You can see $528,000. Total was $474,500. The bleachers for the gymnasium, which will be installed June 4th, I believe, the day after graduation. We'll tear out the old ones, put in the new ones. A security plan that was done, that totaled this amount for maintenance and security. For technology, we've got servers, wireless internet security, student staff devices. These are leases that we pay, interactive boards and monitors, all of this technology, software maintenance and fees, totaling this amount, $664,000. The curriculum that we purchased, we had classroom budgets that were increased, totaling $7,500. Our PLC, PBIS, it's PLC is getting professional learning communities, positive behavior and interventions and strategies, and data retreat. All of that was $39,000. Curriculum purchase $84,000. So for a total of $131,000 approximately, and then all of these staffing positions that were restored. This is actually one is a a subtraction because of a teacher moving from one department to another department and hiring the new teachers in the social studies department at a lower cost. So just wanted to let you know I whited out these individual amounts, but there's all the positions and all the people that we hired for those positions, totaling $426,000, and we had budgeted $550,000. Now we know salaries and benefits will go up for those positions, so it'll be a little bit higher for all those positions next year. Plus, we're adding on the 2 student success staff positions for that. So we get down to what we've expended this year. We budgeted $1.9 million, and we're very close. We're at $1.899 million plus. So potential projects, I talked about direct digital controls for the high school and elementary. We have those as potential projects, and we had this ongoing list before George and I met and developed the EEE for next year, energy efficiency exemptions. So we can knock those off the list, put them in EEE. The security upgrades, well, we know that's around $700,000, but if we get $80,000 to $100,000 in a state grant from Department of Justice, that would be great. Reduce that cost. Curriculum for next year, we're already looking at over $150,000. Oh, sorry, that's for this year, $150,000. And no, that is next year. That's next year's amount we already have. The 18-19 curriculum and consumables, total of approximately $179,000. And then we have what we call this wish list curriculum and projects. This includes science room upgrades at the high school, welding lab upgrades at the high school, and many other supplies from each of the 4 buildings. That's already over $1.9 million for next year. However, again, if we're able to do some of these in energy efficiency exemption, we're able to, and this is not a next year thing, this is a long-term in the next few years, because this is just maintenance and security and a little bit of curriculum. So we know that we'll have those other areas. Any questions on referendum update? I should have been talking into the mic.
Back up at the top, the Family and Consumer Science, Family and Consumer Room, was that the project that was done?
At the high school, yeah. That was the Family Consumer Science or Family Consumer Ed room, and that was identified as a project that we wanted to do in the first year. It was a 1972 model, way outdated, needed upgrading in many ways, wood panel and old cabinets, and we upgraded that facility, so now it's more of a state-of-the-art project. We've got students going into catering, doing many of the
and so is that how much the project came out to be then, about $550,000?
That's approximately what the project was, yes. That's what was budgeted. I think we went a little bit above that. But overall, again, actually, bleachers started at, we estimated, what was that high estimate, George?
$224,000.
Yeah, $224,000. We got a new bid for $185,000, then we got a new bid and locked it in at $143,000. So we were able to get multiple bids, drive the prices down. And there were some things that we definitely learned through the Family Consumer Ed room. Something happened with bids, and it wasn't anything of our fault, but things just didn't work out the way we had hoped. But we still completed the project and have a wonderful facility.
Did Buildings and Grounds pay for some of the upgrades on the Family Consumer? We had some rooftop units. What was that expense? Because I know we had to change some things, some cooler stuff for the cafeteria and that.
Yeah, we did that. And then because the project started in the prior fiscal year, we actually had to use some funds from that previous year, which freed up some money for the bleachers. So he's talking about 17, 18, and actually part of that Family Consumer Science was 16, 17.
Do you know how much that was?
Well, the number that I think everybody's familiar with is the full 700 on that. So,
yeah. That's what I recall. It was that.
So whatever 700 is for the 559, and some of LHB's fees, we had to pay them in June because that literally started in the end of March and April to make the project even happen.
Yeah.
And then we paid Hiawatha Chef direct. That's where the other funds would have came. We paid Hiawatha Chef direct, so we didn't have to pay any taxes on the ovens, microwaves, and all those items.
The $54,246 for LHB for the architectural planning.
Yep.
That's the architectural planning for what? For just the family and consumer ed room?
Well, all of the architectural work for the family consumer ed room.
Soft costs.
Soft costs affiliated.
8% of the project, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical. You always have someone that oversees the whole project. So LHB, VNS actually worked for the district, but worked for them. They are overseen by LHB. So everything that was done by every single one, the concrete person, the drywall person, the oven, the cabinet people, every one of them, it was overseen by LHB, and I will say by George also, because he really assisted a great deal with it.
If I can, the soft costs are probably my biggest pet peeve. If I could do it myself, I'd do it, but because there was a need for state-approved plans to even do this, you have to hire an architect. So
right.
They had a lot of hours and a lot of trips here, and they basically were GC in the project, really.
Right.
They handled all the AIA contracts. And I think we actually went out to bid with 3 different contractors, and there were 2 that were fairly close. We were comfortable because we've worked with this architect before. But typically soft costs are anywhere from 24 to 25%. Without some of the general contracting stuff down to a 12% where it's just architectural fees and permitting. We, I believe, settled at about 8% with them. And we made it long-term. We told them we went with them. We would use them on future projects. I actually, hopefully they don't watch this, but I basically cut them out of that elementary deal, except for an interior designer by the hour. We won't see soft costs in the elementary school. I'm going to pull my hair out with Mr. and Ms. Meyer and get through this one.
Yeah, George will probably save us about $50,000 in soft costs in the project that the board approved for the elementary for this summer.
Yeah, that's craziness.
Project that doesn't need any permitting even from the city. I talked with the city inspector and he said because we're basically doing more replacing than actual remodeling, that we didn't even have to pull a permit.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now back to action items. The first action item on the list is the 2018-19 technology purchase for the intermediate and elementary.
Was there a budget?
No, that's what I just, we just covered.
Yeah.
Okay, so for these technology purchases, Clint is here, and just to mention, these, I could have just approved. One is a lease of $42,000, the other is $62,000, but due to the total amount of them, I wanted to bring them forward to the board just to inform the board and show you what they are exactly.
Well, and just so you know, with the passing of the referendum last year, we upgraded the student devices for the middle school and high school and delayed the elementary and intermediate. And we planned on, that was a planned scheduled maintenance refresh. So this year, the 18-19 school year, elementary and the intermediate would get new student devices. And this one is a Windows laptop, and that's for the intermediate school. And it is 340 machines. And this is a 3-year, $1 buyout. We did go out and get bids. I asked for bids from 5 vendors. We got 2 back. And the other one was $80,000 more. And so this is the one we're recommending for the intermediate school. And so after 3 years, we will own the device for $1. Then the second one, this is the elementary school. It's the same type of lease. It's a 3-year lease, $1 buyout, and these are iPads. The elementary school had several meetings, and they wanted to go with iPads in their building, and this would be 400 iPads for $42,714 a year for 3 years. So we're basically just looking for your approval to move forward with it, and these would be part of the referendum dollars. Any questions on them?
I guess I still kind of wonder why the students in, some of the lower elementary grades need one-to-one technology. I don't want them to always have one-to-one technology.
Well, it is one-to-one in the classroom except for pre-K, but...
Well, and what one-to-one looks like in the elementary is different from the high school, because the middle and high school, they take their devices home. It doesn't operate that way. Ms. Meyer, you want to talk about how they use
Right. So I agree with you. Technology doesn't need to be used every minute of the day. But, for example, maybe we have a math program that is part of our curriculum. We do have one. It's called Dreambox. And we want all the kids to access it at the same time. And so therefore, they all have an iPad to do that. We're also doing a lot more integrating with kids being involved. Take, for example, Seesaw. Seesaw is a communication tool that we use in the classroom where kids can go and they can say they're working on their spelling list and they read their words to their families, and then they send it off to the families. It's ways that we are integrating the technology for the entire classroom. We have access now to what's called Apple Classroom. So the classroom teacher can look at her iPad and see every iPad in the classroom at the same time. She can shoot out whatever applications she wants the children to work on at a given time. So it's kind of the wave of the future, but at the same time, I understand the concern. And we are learning as we go, and we have put in some, Greta, is she still here? No. She left. I don't blame her. So Greta Halverson has been working with our media paraeducator to just get things in order so that we're ready for the fall when all children do have access to an iPad. And again, it is K-1-2. The 4K is only ordering, I believe they ended up with 6, 1 for the teacher and 5 to share with the children. And there was a lot of conversation about it. The younger grades, kindergarten was like, do we really need these? But I think in the end we felt that it was a good time to do it. So,
are the teachers forced to implement these in their classrooms then?
Forced? What do you mean by that? Encouraged?
Strongly
yes.
Encouraged.
Of course we want to stay up with technology, so absolutely. They're not forced to use them. They want to use them. They see the benefits of using them. There are some amazing applications that teachers integrate with their students, reading applications, math applications. But is it happening all day long? Absolutely not. And we do not encourage that.
Right.
So the lease is for 3 years, and then we have the option to purchase it for $1 or renew with a more updated version of the
We would still purchase them for, well, it's an option, but they have some value at the end of that 3 years.
Sure.
It's not very much though. But yeah, then the whole idea is if it's felt it's needed to upgrade them, you can turn around and upgrade them.
Sure.
The whole idea with the student devices on the referendum was a 3-year refresh on all of them.
What's the warranty protection on these? So if they break, get dropped, screen cracks, what do we have for that?
Well, the iPads would be cases, and we've had good luck with them thus far with the cases. I think we've had maybe 5 crack. The laptops, they'll have cases as well, but they come with Gorilla Glass. And when we had our first round with the high school students, middle school students, 4 years ago, we probably had 100 to 150 screens break, and that was under a warranty. The new batch that we have, I think we've had 5, which is because they got Gorilla Glass on them. Very durable. So the screen breakages, I'm not concerned about that. And so we ordered, the idea is to get 340, and right now the enrollment, I think, at the intermediate was at 313. So we got 27 extra. So we'll be able to, if we have to, we'll be able to replace the screens. Because to buy extra laptops was cheaper than buying that extra warranty.
And then are we, so the high school has both now with the middle school and the high school, they have that insurance package, that $50 insurance package. Are we asking elementary then and intermediate school parents the same $50 one-time fee deposit on those? Or
yeah, they're not leaving, so if they're not leaving the building or the district, there's no reason to have that insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would be the idea of what you would do with the laptops after you bought them after the 3 years?
You could turn around and sell them if you wanted to pay that $1. And there's a little value there, if you wish.
Would you sell them like to the students, or you don't know yet, or?
No, I haven't gotten there yet, because the current ones, we got to send a batch back this year that are at the elementary and intermediate now. Those are under a fair market value, so we have to actually buy them from Dell for, I think they're like $200 a piece. So we're sending them back because they're fair market. Now we're doing the $1 buyout, because these are a little, there's not as much value in these, so we won't do a 3-year fair market value on them, because it's not worth for them to do that to get them back.
I'll move to.
I was just going to say, does anyone have any more questions for?
I'll make a motion to go with the lease options for the elementary and the intermediate school as presented.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, we already covered meal prices. So the next action item up for discussion is the approval of the 18-19 open enrollment applications.
Okay, these are open enrollment in students for next year, and according to state law, DPI, we have to send a letter that we need board approval for open enrollment in and out students. The next page is the open enrollment out. And these are only applications, just to be clear. There's no guarantee we'll get those students that open enrolled in. And also, you'll see 3 columns here. So some students may have applied at 2 to 3 different districts. And again, there's no guarantee that a student will necessarily leave. Traditionally, we've had a number of different open enrollment out applications, but they'll decide somewhere between now and when we start school if they actually leave or not. So we just need to accept.
Is that because there's a deadline?
There is a deadline, end of April for open enrollment. And then they can decide whether or not to pursue that depending on where they end up. It's February through April for open enrollment, and now by June 1st we have to send a letter. So our district open enrollment secretary, Susie Thayer, will send these letters out once the board approves all of these. Actually ready to go. We just need board approval.
Does it still hold true that a certain percentage of our students are allowed to leave, or is that not
No, there's
anymore?
no percentage.
Okay.
This year, I will say we had 148, just under 150 open enrollment out students. 2 years ago, we had 75 open enrollment in, and this year we had just over 100 open enrollment in. So we're closing the gap. The open enrollment out has been pretty steady, but the open enrollment in has been going up.
I'll make a motion we approve the open enrollment in and out applications.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Certified staff contracts.
Okay, you can take these one at a time or all together, but the certified staff contracts are teacher contracts, and we'd like to send out teacher contracts. They're due back by June 15th, so we'd like to send them out, and with the current dollar amounts for the current year, so it would say no less than the current amount, and you should know that there was also a $1,000 supplemental amount that was added to those teachers that did not have movement. In other words, from a level to the next level. So A to B or B to C or H to I. So those teachers received $1,000 in addition to their base salary. So we would, this is a placeholder just so that we can send contracts out so teachers are able to sign them by June 15th. And we'll talk about the dollar amounts as we get further into our budget for next year, and we'll be able to set that by September and possibly even in the next month or two. And then the next is for non-certified staff contracts. That would be for directors and supervisors, as we had discussed. And then bus driver contracts, the state statutes require all bus driver contracts to be board approved. And then support staff letters of appointment, those are sent out by me. They don't technically have to be board approval, but I'm just posting all of them up there for you to see. So we'll be sending all of those out. It's been a busy time in the district office. We're preparing all of those before the end of the school year.
Yeah, because technically, wasn't it May 15th?
There's no deadline to send them. They can be sent.
Well, but by May 15th, it automatically goes to the next year. Or that contract
no,
is just
there was a preliminary notice of non-renewal. It used to be end of March, and now it's May 1st. And so that has to do with, there is no date that they have to be given a contract. There's just a date by state statute for them to be returned in order to be guaranteed the position.
Okay, so we're looking at a motion to approve all, those as a whole, those four.
Or certified staff, anyway.
Certified staff, non-certified staff, and bus drivers, I guess. And then the other is just a report item, because I send out letters. I sign and send those out.
Move to approve the certified staff contracts, the non-certified staff contracts, and the bus driver contracts for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second that.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is employee handbooks. Did you want to discuss just the overall procedure, and then we can go over the one in particular policy that we want, at least on the agenda for next time.
So what we've done in the past is we typically look at the employee handbooks, look for updates, and near the end of the school year, May, June, we look at the handbooks and look at any potential changes. And so we'll talk with staff, and there is a separate certified staff employee handbook, so teacher's handbook, and then a non-certified, or rather support staff it's called. And the handbooks were separated a few years ago, post-Act 10, to have the compensation and benefits manual as a separate document from the handbook. And that's the gist of it. So employee handbooks, there can be changes made at any time. It's not like a policy, doesn't require a reading, a second reading. At any time during the year, technically, it can be updated. But generally, at this time of the year, May, June, the end of the school year, as I mentioned, is when we review it.
And I know that there are certain policies that everybody was interested in updating or changing, and those can be put on as an action item. And I know that we've done some research regarding certain language of some of the policies, and I think you were going to forward all of that samples from other school districts, and we can tweak it how we want it read, and then have it up for discussion and approval at the next board meeting.
Well, I think,
specifically. And we had
when
this-
we talk about handbooks, I guess I'd like to, the support staff handbook that, with reference to the November meeting of 2017, to refer and reverse that change back to what it was.
Correct. And also for the support staff and for certified staff too, right? They